Record on this computer. All right, we're on.
All
hey
right.
everybody, it's Stephenie Fitt, and welcome to our video chat. Today we have Leslie Rogers-Peckham, good friend of mine, longtime friend, and it's fun to have an excuse to talk and see your face.
Yes.
I can't even remember the last time I saw your face in person, probably at Sprouts or Vitamin Cottage.
Vitamin Cottage. A hangout.
Yes, yes. So Leslie and I are going to have a talk about getting unstuck and living intentionally. So relevant to so many of us. I'm excited to share this all with you. Leslie is a great friend. Like I said, going back
Too many years.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I've lived in this house how long? So yeah, like 23 years, something like that. It's been a long time.
When our babies were babies.
And I remember getting the babies bathed and put to bed, and then you and I would go for runs in the neighborhood, and it would be dusk. I remember it being warm, so it must have been summertime, and we'd go as the sun was setting, and we just talk as we ran.
Like, we're free.
Yeah, it was amazing. And yeah, nonstop, like venting and adulting and then running. And I think, gosh, now to go for a run and talk that often, I don't know if I could do it. I need to train.
We need to train for talking and running.
I know. We need to train, but good times, really good memories. And then you moved away, a few miles away, and we were able to keep in touch. And we got to work together in our beach body days. That was fun. And so anyway, I'm really glad to come in full circle here, and I'm excited about what you're doing now. And why don't we start off with you telling us a little bit about you?
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've lived in Colorado since '97, and really long time. And moving into the suburbs was something I never thought I'd do. Like when we drove by Highlands Ranch, what I said about Highlands Ranch wasn't particularly pleasant. And then there I sat. And what I found was I made some really amazing connections, Steph being one of them, a lot of them through working out and kids. And that kind of became my new identity. Was my husband worked, then my husband traveled for work. I was home with the kids. They went to a charter school, so we drove. And so I kind of lost myself. I kept trying to stay connected with it, a lot of times through fitness, because exercise keeps me sane and connections with other people. So we've been here a really long time, and it took a long time for me to realize that I had gotten really stuck where I didn't know who I was anymore. I developed some really bad habits. The whole kind of culture of the wine mommies, and we're all sitting outside the cul-de-sac and we're drinking wine, and then you're drinking, it just seemed like that also went with the suburbs. And what happened to me was that I kind of got myself on track when my oldest was in high school at Mount Vista, because my dad died and I had to deal with the estate. And then when she went off to college, things got a little more, crazy. My son was at a different school. So I kind of lost myself again. And I fell out of doing real good self-care. So I'm babbling. But so it's just sort of the scenario of what happens when we as human beings end up with most of what we're doing being about somebody other than ourselves. And it happens so slowly that you don't even notice it. It's sort of like the frog in the boiling water. And so the kind of isolation, because my husband was traveling and I was home with the kids, the not working a normal job because of the whole driving the kids to school and living that whole kind of cookie cutter lifestyle, I just ended up in a place several years ago as my youngest approached the end of his he just graduated a year ago, but where I realized things had gone south, and I was in the mud and it wasn't pretty. I really didn't know who I was anymore, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew I needed to get out. And so I did some different steps and strategies that got me out of that space. And then I looked around and I thought, if I had had somebody to lean on or some help in figuring out how to rediscover who I was, this might not have gotten so yucky. It might have, who knows? We don't know. But that, I mean, that's a really long drawn out who I am, but
No,
I'm
it's, I
so,
think it's relevant. No, the reason I think it's so relevant is I know so many women, and there are going to be men watching this as well. And this happens with men, but they have women in their lives who might be like this. It's such a part of our DNA to be people pleasers. Many of us are
right,
people pleasers, and many of us say yes when we're thinking no, but we say yes. And before we know it, here we are.
right.
And how did we get here? And my kids are grown. And I really think you're speaking to a situation that many of us can identify with, or if we can't, we know people who have spoken to us about situations like this. So no, keep going. It's
Okay, so, but
yeah.
yeah, so I mean, I think it's that the people pleasing part is a huge part. And I think that it goes into, for me at least, my boundaries became very vague. And so when the kids were at school, then I thought that the people at the school were my friends. And they were friendly, but they weren't necessarily my friends.
Mhm.
And so the network or community looks like it's much stronger than it actually is. And it might be different in a neighborhood where you go to the same school, or it's just the same kind of thing where we create relationships with people that we're kindred to only because of the situation. We wouldn't necessarily seek them out for friendship outside of that. We don't realize that when we're doing it because
Mhm.
we're just caught up in the whole thing. So I think that it's just, and I do think it happens to men too. I mean, I think it happens to men. They just call it something different and it
Mhm.
looks different.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, good point.
women tend to reach out more because it's it's not necessarily considered a weakness as much by women to say I'm in trouble.
Or to say I'm stuck, or
I'm stuck.
say I'm spinning my wheels, or yeah, I don't know what, empty nester. There's all kinds of terms for it. And you don't have to have grown kids to feel this way, right?
Right.
You don't have
And I
to.
think we as women tend to collaborate more together.
Mhm.
And so like if you're, even if they're not your best friends, you might be at spin class and if, pre-pandemic or even during a Steph spin class online and be able to express your frustration and get some support. I don't think men tend to let that piece out.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, the men might have to chime in the comments and set us straight on that, because it's hard for us to know what a man is thinking, just as it's hard for a man to know what we're thinking. We're all doing the best we can, but yeah, we get stuck. We get stuck, and I do agree with you that situational friendships, they're great. They're great, but they're not deep. They're not.
Right.
And then when the situation changes, those friendships don't always stick. And one of the reasons why I think it's fun that we've weathered the storm, because we were neighbors,
Yeah.
and then oftentimes a neighbor moves away and you lose touch, and we've been able to stay friends even though you've moved away. But I mean, your kids are on a soccer team and you're friends with the parents,
Yeah.
and then kid changes to another sport and bye-bye, and you don't talk to anybody anymore, and or you change churches, congregations, and everybody rallies, and then you move and you don't really have that anymore. So it really is about being solid with yourself, because all of that kind of changes around you.
Right, exactly. And so I sort of look at like four pillars. You've got your self-esteem, your confidence, your community, and your relationships.
I
And
love that.
there's so many things within those four pillars of um, that can start to crumble and can leave you feeling like you don't know who you are. And the self-esteem, especially for women, as we get through the kids and you start approaching and going through menopause, a lot of us have weight changes, and that is very hard since we're a society that's so focused on how we look
Mm-hmm.
and what your body's like. So that self-esteem then rolls into your confidence. When people aren't feeling very good about themselves, then their relationships change, and your communities change. And I think that that's the one that we don't really see coming, is that when the kids graduate from high school or move to different schools, the structured community that you think you have sort of dissipates.
Yeah.
And
It
And
evolves, and it isn't
it,
always bad.
no, sometimes it's awesome. I mean, a lot of times, no, a lot of times it's really awesome. And so it's not like that's not a good thing. I mean, I'm all about pivoting and adapting. And I think that that is what separated during this pandemic of people that you would say, you know, how are you? And they'd say, well, I could complain, but why would I do that? And people that were like, you know, I'm actually doing pretty well. We've adopted some new habits at home, because those are the people that pivoted and adapted. And I think that what happened to me and happens to other people sometimes is that they lose their ability to do that because they're so stuck in feeling shitty.
Yeah.
Sorry, but you know, they're just stuck in feeling bad. Beep, beep. And so they want to get better, but they don't know how to feel better. And sometimes we get addicted to the position we're in of being unhappy, and that becomes your identity, like that you're complaining about the situation. And you know, whatever you tell your brain, it believes. So if you keep telling it that things aren't as they could be and you're unhappy, ta-da, your wish is my command, you are.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. We believe what we tell ourselves. So tell me, I want to take these notes down. 4 pillars, say them again.
So you've got self-esteem,
okay,
confidence, community, and relationships.
Community and relationships. Okay. And I don't write that fast.
Oh, no.
You would think if this 4th year of grad school that I would be really good at taking notes. And I feel this so much slower than I was. I mean,
well, then I look at my writing and I'm like, I don't know what that says. It must have been profound.
Right. So with these 4 pillars, so this is part of your coaching program. So how did you get into coaching then? You're stuck, and how did you go from stuck to coaching other people how to get unstuck? Tell us a little about that.
I've always had kind of a role in, it seems like something I've always been drawn to. My degree's in psychology. You know, I did some volunteer work after college at Planned Parenthood. I then, when my kids were in school, I coached Girls on the Run, which any of you are familiar with that program, it's amazing. The whole idea with Girls on the Run is that if you can get girls to think outside the box before they get put in the box, that they'll make better life decisions and are less likely to end up dropping out pregnant, doing drugs, etc. So it's a really powerful program. And I did that. I coached that for a couple of years at my kids' school. I coached cross country at my son's school. And then I was also a mentor at the Women's Bean Project. So I've kind of been weaving in and out of this, even during some of those times when I wasn't, you know, exactly where I wanted to be by a long shot. I still have been drawn to this. And so I feel like this is like my life calling. I really want women to realize how, and men too. I mean, it's just my focus because I'm a woman and I'm the one that experienced this, but to realize how amazing they are, and to get back to, we all had dreams of what we wanted to do when we were kids. And then you kind of change that dream or it just kind of fills away. And so what I like to do is work with people who can sit down and write out, like, what does your ideal life look like? What are you willing to give up to get that? What do you want to change? And then weave in new habits so that people can start. I mean, a huge part of everything, I think, is gratitude. Because if we're not grateful for what we have, it's very difficult to think of anything that you can become, because why would you get more if you don't even like what you have? So, it just gives me so much joy when I see this light go on in my clients that are working with me, where they are like, it's because of you and this work we've done, and because of me, like when they take responsibility for where they are, and that I help them with a bridge to get there, and that they're feeling light and life, and like the rest of their future is something that they're excited about. They're not like, oh great, so what do you do now? You wait for like the grandkids? I'm like, no, you're gonna like live to be somewhere between 80 and 100 probably, and you're 50. Like, come on,
what a life to live. Yes,
right. And so this is sort of your second breath, not breath, that sounds deadly, but it's like it's our turn. I mean, that's what I feel like. It's our turn. Like, we did we've done a good job. I mean, I think most of us are pretty happy with the human beings that we created. They did their own thing. They're responsible for who they are, but they're good people. So now it's time for us to be good people to ourselves, like give ourselves the same sort of care that we gave others.
I love how you put that. It's true. And there's all this talk about self-care and do your yoga and your meditation and whatever, but one can do those things and still feel stuck. I love the
Right.
idea of a coach. I mean, I think of I consider I mean, I'm an athlete, I'm a PE teacher,
Yeah,
we
you're a
ran
coach.
together, right? Like,
Yeah.
but I just picture the most the elite athletes who I can picture hire coaches. It's not like you reach this level as an athlete and then you don't need coaches anymore. I mean, every level needs coaches, and that's the same with every aspect of our lives. And I think it's a wonderful investment to work with someone who can push you out of that
Yeah.
unstuck. And even if you're doing so many great things, how do you bring it together for the greater good? How do you level up? And I don't know, I think that's cool. So then as you are speaking, I'm thinking you have an ideal client or an avatar or a particular group type you work with, or do you take people from all walks of life? Or tell us a little bit about
Well,
your clients.
I mean, I'm happy to really I shouldn't say that because that makes things broad. The people I work with are people that are more like you and me, which is, they've had a change. I do have some clients who have made their career their child, and then they're kind of
Yep.
like, oh crap,
Yep.
this is where I am and this is what I've done, and getting them to, like reignite who they want to be and change from whatever that career is. So, but for the most part, the people I work with are women, and they're probably between the ages of like in their 40s to 60s. Because we all have kids at different times. They all leave at different times. I mean, I have one client who's 38, but she started really early. So, so my ideal client it has to be somebody who actually is willing to make the change, because we can all do it yourself. We can all read every self-help book in town, and we probably all have. And until you actually put, the rubber to the road and you're willing to do the work, which the only way through it is through it. There's no quick, easy fix. You got to do the work, and you got to be committed. And, and I've kind of taken, when we talk about self-care and yoga, and we talk about our hair or nails, like there's things that I'm like, no, that's not self-care. That's part of my maintenance. That is that's how I maintain. Like I work out every morning, not because I'm like, oh, I'm going to be like fitty, whatever. I work out every day because it's what makes me happy and makes me better to other people. So it's not like,
Yeah,
and my family can attest to that. Let's be real. I'm a real bit. No, it just makes a big difference if I work out. And I know that. And so, and that's part of the process too, is sometimes people forget. They don't even know that that's part of their makeup, because they've gotten so bogged down in their existence. And, and it sounds so dramatic. Here we are in White Man's Ranch, living in our houses, like we're really a very, by and large, a pretty privileged group of people. That doesn't mean it's any easier. That doesn't mean it isn't hard. Like we can't say because we're fortunate and grateful for all this, that there aren't still things that happen that make it hard for us to feel comfortable in our own skin, confident about what we bring to the world, and like we have a dream that we want to go after and can do it.
Yeah. Well, there's just something exciting about having something to look forward to, or experiencing growth. And growth can be scary and it can be hard, but it can also be exhilarating, and just being pushed just a little bit out of our comfort zone.
Right.
Let me ask you this. So would you consider yourself, are you more of a cheerleader kind of coach, or are you more like cut to the crap, or are you a mix? Are you a mix?
Well, I have this natural ability that I've had like my whole life, but kind of where I can see stuff in people. Like I can read between the lines before they've told me what they're doing or thinking. It's like I don't know if it's empathy. I don't know if I wouldn't say that I'm an empath, because that I don't get upset by other people and their emotions, but I can see a lot of times what other people can't see. So I feel like I'm kind because I don't think being nasty to people is helpful, but I'm pretty direct in guiding people to, to help them get to their goals.
Yeah.
Because, and I will cheer you on and I will shout your name from the highest hilltop. I love encouraging and cheering people. I mean, it's awesome. But um, if I'm working with somebody and they're not wanting to do the work, then we probably shouldn't be working together
Yeah.
because everybody's going to be disappointed. And, and I take, maybe this is ego. I really want people to get results from working with me. I mean, I've worked with bad coaches. I've worked with coaches where I've been like, dang, I got ripped off. And that I never want that to be me. I want to be a coach that really is not for the long term. I don't want to be a crutch. I want to be the person that can help people see. And then maybe I come back in and you do a check-in. And I have a coach. And I have different people that I work with because I can't grow in a vacuum.
Mhm.
I don't think any of us can. It's like if you could protect your little bubble and keep everything as you like it. We kind of did that in raising our kid. Like there was the bubble of the
There
kid thing,
was,
right? And the bubble of oh great, I can go to spin at Northridge at this time because the kids got dropped off and it was really great, but not a lot of very happy times were there. And it was a lot of stuff for the kids. And again, the exercise comes up because that's what keeps me as a nicer person than without. But that wasn't actually a place where I was doing any growing. And I think that's true for a lot of moms is that, and dads, there's dads that stay home while their wives are off, doing that's an awkward one.
Could be. I mean,
but I think that when you're in a vacuum and that vacuum can be really pretty, growth doesn't happen. And I know, I bought every self-help, how to be a better human being, person, whatever book out there. And some of them give me a lot of really good information, but the accountability that you have when you work with somebody, and that's a big part of my program is, I do a traction call once a week where we see where you are, where you want to be. Depending on the person, I use some techniques from other programs where you need to text me at night that you actually did your gratitudes.
okay, so accountability is a big piece.
Accountability is a big piece because if you could do this yourself, you would be doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And time, you've got to do it for a longer period of time. We can all give up sugar for a week.
Can we?
Actually, I can't. Or you take away my coffee, But
yeah.
But so the accountability is a big deal, being part of a team, but at the same time, being real, with what somebody's doing and taking criticism. If somebody isn't happy with what I'm saying or needs me to say it differently, or needs me to be, stronger or not, or softer, I want to work with that person within me, within reason so that they can get the results they want. But it's not going to do me any good to pat somebody on the head and tell them they're awesome and have them keep paying me and have them have no growth.
Absolutely. And I think deep down, we don't want that either. I mean, if I am working with a coach, I want to leave that coach better than when I met that coach. And so that sounds like that's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Is you're not looking to be a crutch. You're not looking to hook them and keep them. You want to set them free at some point to live their best lives. I love that. And then I love the idea of checking in. You get stuck again. Let's revisit.
Yeah, come on back. And I also want to have, and I've got some people in place for having a really great referral bank. I'm not a nutritionist. I know nothing about nutrition. You do. I have another gal that does recalibrating emotions. It's amazing with this heart wall stuff. If somebody's got some stuff that is deep, not my jurisdiction. That's not I have no business playing there. This person might work for you. Just people that I can connect them with that, I don't get a benefit other than knowing they're getting the assistance they need, because I would be pretty full of if I thought I could do all those things, I probably would be a psychopath or something. I mean, that's just not realistic.
Right. They talk about in my training, we talk about scope of practice, and you really need to have a narrow, very specific scope, and then build up your referral network so that you can refer to trusted sources, because there are a variety of needs out there, and sometimes timing is everything. Sometimes this person is stuck, but let's deal with this first, and then we'll deal with this, and then let's talk, you know. And
Right.
it's I love that. I agree with that. So your program, it sounds like there's got to be some getting to know each other, you vetting the person, them vetting you. How do you have like an orientation meeting, or tell us how this plays out? What does your program look like?
What I do is, the first thing we do is sit down, and things have opened up, so it makes it easier. If somebody's more comfortable with Zoom, we can do that. But I like to do just a complimentary kind of evaluation where I find out what they're looking for, they find out what I offer, and we really kind of dice it out. That takes about an hour. Sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. If it's shorter, that usually is a sign that they're absolutely excited and ready to go, or I'm absolutely not the person for them. And then once we've done that, then I do a 13-week program,
Okay.
and then basically a 6-month program. So the 13-week, with both of them, we do that 45-minute traction call once a week. We do the check-ins if necessary. We've got homework. So it's a commitment to be really vested in the process. If somebody wants to come to work with me and wants their life to change, they have to want to do the work. And, if they don't, then I'll be frustrated and unhappy. They'll be frustrated and unhappy. So, and then we kind of roll it out. I mean, when I launched my program in the fall, I had a gal that we ended up doing 6 weeks, and she kept rolling forward with 6 weeks. That I feel like is a very short amount of time. But I'm always open to negotiation. If somebody's like, I'm not really sure, and then I can do a beta program where we'll do it once. And then after that, the other 2 programs are the options.
Got it. So I'm guessing that this is one-on-one you're speaking of.
Yes, absolutely.
This is not a group. This isn't a 13-week
No.
group, or this is one-on-one. So they're getting very extremely personalized.
Right. And we've got a contract. Everything they say with me is confidential. What's said here stays here. It's, that's something that is incredibly important to me, because I would be very unhappy if something I shared came out. It's just common practice,
Yeah, well, I mean, that goes without saying, but it needs to be said.
Well, because people don't realize, it's just, I think in the social media world, so much stuff gets out there that sometimes we feel like our privacy isn't really private, because you could just be someplace with somebody who decides to post a picture of you. The stuff happens. So so that's integral part of my program. It's just that people know that anything they say with me is safe. I mean, if somebody was I'm not a psychiatrist, but if I thought you were going to harm yourself, there would be something else we need to talk about. But that's an exception to the rule.
Absolutely. So 13 weeks to 6 months. I don't know. I mean, I just would imagine that both timeframes, if people are doing the homework and the check-ins and the coaching, doing the things that you're asking them to do, I just don't know how you cannot improve. You cannot be a better version of yourself after a time frame like that. I don't know. I think that's, if you're training for a marathon, or I keep referring to athletic events.
No, but that works for us.
You and I, formed a friendship with running. And I mean, you're training, you don't run a couple times and then expect to have a great experience running your marathon. And so it makes sense that there's regular, consistent contact. There's the homework piece. That word might send chills up some
a teacher's back,
right? Or for me, homework, or just a parent who's been parenting at home through COVID.
Yeah, well, no, so it's more like a commitment to do some of the steps that we've discussed in the session.
Yes, there's no quizzes.
So it's not like I'm giving people a stack. It's all things, and it really evolves depending on. We've got the pillars, but it really evolves depending on the person. I mean, you've got people that want to create an online presence and have, podcasts or video blog, whatever, you've got people that want to write a book or do the Colorado Trail. I mean, there's like all sorts of different things, or that want to relaunch themselves into a new career and are, have lost the confidence in their ability. And, I mean, it's just, there's so many different things, but I feel like that yeah, the work is important.
I bet you see it all. As you were talking about that, I was wondering to myself, wonder if, someone wants to have a new relationship, a single person who's ready to take on a new relationship, or, I mean,
Yeah,
it could be anything.
anything.
It
It doesn't have to be a career. It doesn't have to be, I mean, it really is, I feel like it's really a rediscovery of the self, because, we forget, we get stuck and we forget who we are.
Yeah.
And
yeah. And there are young people who might be watching this. There are some younger people in the group. We love you. And
yes, we do.
and I think we owe it to the younger generations to get our act together. Like if we're stuck, that doesn't bode well for the people who are looking to us for wisdom. And so, yeah, I mean, I feel like it's consistent with our wanting to please people, but by working on ourselves, we're going to be more available and the best role model we can be for the younger people coming up, doing what we were doing 20 years ago.
Right. And it's funny that you brought that up, because my middle daughter was saying, because we were talking about generational, there's generational addictions, there's generational traumas, there's generational, like it just goes. And Caitlin said, it stops now. Because I think that her age group, she's in her early 20s, are like, no, we're not taking it. We're not going to take it. We're not going to deal with this. We're not going to take it. Yep. And we, as their parents or aunties or uncles or whatever, us doing the work now shows them that it doesn't stop, and that you're never like too old to change or chase after a dream or rediscover yourself.
Yes.
And that's
and as because I know some of the arguments or some of the push points where people might push against this idea, I think at least where my mind goes is I'm too old to, like, no, why did I wait so long? Or I'm, this is okay. Like we settle for okay. Or or the shoulds. I should be grateful. I really have it good. I should be grateful. But it's about dreaming again. It's about pushing ourselves. There could be more. Why settle?
Exactly. And the whole, and I should be grateful. Yeah, we all are grateful. What I think, something that I just keep revisiting is the future. Like, stop telling the stories of what happened, what didn't work, where you are, what it is. And I'm an incredible storyteller. Sometimes it benefits me and they're beautiful. A lot of the times it doesn't, because if I'm telling myself a story that doesn't support my future growth, then I won't have it. And so working with people to make sure that they're looking at the future, like, where do we want this to go? This is all, it does matter, but it shouldn't be part of today's conversation. Yeah. I mean, you can give reasons for, like, or, oh yeah, my grandfather was a professor. There's like fun stories that give people grounding on who you are, but the excuse stories that explain why you aren't where you want to be are exhausting for yourself and for everybody around you.
Yes. Yes. True. Okay. So we're winding this thing up. I have a couple more questions for you. One, how has this affected you? This whole program and this whole coaching and helping people?
It's been kind of amazing, because I had a career before we moved here in Seattle, and I had a lot, and I was a massage therapist there after my corporate career. And then we moved here and I did a lot of things. I was a realtor, but I basically had a resume that was not particularly impressive. And working through this, and now the last year and almost a year and a half, I'm like head of sales at this company. Like when he hired me, at that point I was like, well, I don't know why I couldn't do this. This is what I used to do like 20 years ago or more. But so career wise, like, it's not my dream career. It's what I do. I get a kick out of it because I like sales and I like people. And I like the people I work with, but that's a huge deal because that made a big difference in our family's scenario. And just how I'm carrying myself for my kids and being able to, and I've got a 19, a 24-year-old and a 27-year-old, but they're still watching.
No.
You know, they're still watching. And me working on this has allowed me to more clearly say, turn it over. You guys are doing a great job, but you don't need, if you ask my opinion, I'll give it to you, but I don't need to micromanage you.
Mhm.
And so that's been a big difference with this.
Mhm.
And then just my commitment to, I feel like looking at the whole picture and the relationships,
Yeah.
making sure that my husband is, happy. And that, I mean, it has taken me from a position where I always felt that I was sort of less than, and that developed over a long period of time of doing what we do, but, just my self-esteem and my confidence going down to feeling like, no problem. I can handle
Yeah.
all this. I can deal
That's
with uncomfortable. So it's great,
so
and it's also,
empowering.
yeah, and it's reconnected me with an even more powerful way with other people who are on the same path. And funny thing, the ones that weren't, and the ones that were doing the bad things that I was participating in, they're gone.
Mm.
They're gone.
So you're attracting people who are like-minded that way and driven to
Mhm.
better themselves and to push themselves, and you're able to part ways with maybe some of the unhealthy
Right.
influences, and not that they're bad people, but
No,
this
in a
wasn't
very
healthy
kind
for
way. It's
you.
just,
Yeah, it
there's
wasn't.
no reason to be there
Yeah.
for
No, I love
for
that.
them either. So, I mean, it's like, I don't think they wanted to be with me either.
Mm.
So, it's
Yeah,
all good.
that's awesome. So I would imagine then that your clients are getting, so what are some of the benefits they're getting? I would imagine it's much of the same stuff. They're able
It is.
to, maybe, I mean, people talk about purging their friends, going through their friends list on
Yeah.
Facebook. I'm not saying you literally have them do that. Maybe you do. I don't know. But when you're talking about how your relationships have evolved to where you're now attracting people who push you a little more, I would imagine that's what's happening for your clients.
It is. I mean, and one of my clients, her husband was like, I feel like I have my wife back, because they went through a very bad period, and she, like, just, life happens, things change, whatever. And that was like, wow, that's kind of nice, because that was him remembering who she was.
Yeah.
And, then expanding careers where, yes, I can still do this, but my passion, I'm really good at this. So I'm going to do some contracting work over here. And then I'm going to work on this video vlog idea, so different quadrants where it went from like, I hate where I live, I'm unhappy, to I'm lucky I get to live here, and I'm now doing this, and I'm changing. So a lot of changing of roles
Mm.
in a professional way. And then also the ability to say, I'm not going to work right now, because I've got another goal that isn't supported by me getting a job,
Mhm.
that's not like thinking I just need to make money. It's like,
Mhm.
I mean, yes, ideally, wasn't it Rita Davenport that said money is like no, it was her oxygen thing.
I
Money's like
don't know.
oxygen. Oh,
You're asking me.
oh, I know. No, it was, oh, no, she said something about money is like oxygen. I mean, life's just easier if you have it.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, just
Yeah.
that. So, but it's not like, but you can make choices that take you away from that whole, like, oh my God, I've got to get a job, to what's my goal for the summer, and
Mhm.
setting up a healthier goal that's going to help develop you as a person. Yeah. So the changes have been like, it just, watching people like bloom is pretty amazing.
Very cool. I'm so happy and excited for you, Leslie. I mean, this seems like everything that's happened, knowing you for so long, and knowing your family, and just, it seems like everything has happened just as it should to prime you for right this moment.
Right. And that's the thing, is that
And
when we
all of us.
see, right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. All of us, if you look at it as more of a gift than, I mean, I hate the term "it is what it is," but that kind of, like, it is like we get there because we got there, and that's where we are. But yeah, but all those steps, like, and without the mud, like the lotus flower that you talk about in class,
Mhm.
right? Without the mud, there's no lotus. And
Yep.
so,
No mud, no flower.
right. And so I think that, yeah, and I watch it with you as well. Like the steps that we take over time end up opening into something amazing
Love
if we
it.
take the steps. But if we don't take the steps, then we're going to stay stuck, and staying stuck leads to a lot of dependencies on unhealthy options.
Yeah, and it just feels icky. We all have been there. We know what it feels like. It just we're not operating at our best when we're stuck. For
No.
sure. For sure.
And we're not setting good examples for anybody around us. And it puts a lot of burden on our significant others, you know?
Yep. And we don't want that.
No.
We want everyone to be their best. And if we don't want to be the one dragging our loved ones down, for sure.
Right.
Not at all. Well, okay. So is there anything else that we haven't talked about or that hasn't been said that's important to get across when it comes to the value and benefit of hiring a coach, the value and benefit of getting unstuck? Is there anything that we missed?
I mean, I really think we've covered it pretty well. I just think that making an investment in yourself is the best investment you can make. I mean, we spend money on a lot of things, and a lot of those things are to cover up the way that we're feeling. So, if anyone's out there ready to move into the next kind of phase, I'd love to help you do it. It's my passion. It's what I've been doing forever. And having been through it, I know what it's like to be in the mud or in the hole. I think about that cartoon that Brene Brown shows of empathy. Sympathy is standing outside with somebody in the hole and going, oh, you're in the hole. And empathy, you go down in the hole with a ladder and you take them out of the hole. And that's because I've had the experience. My empathy gives me some insight into what it's like to be there, and the fact that I got out of there and I'm continuing to prosper with this. Like I said, there's no way through it but through it, and you've always got to be working. There's no easy street.
Yeah.
Except that it is actually easy, because when you're doing the stuff you love, then life is pretty fun. I mean, we're going to have our bumps, but you handle them and they're like, that was a bump. That wasn't a crisis. That's not going to take me down. Everything's fine. You just kind of go through it and handle it.
So finding that love again. I mean, it's all about love.
All about loving yourself, because if you don't, there's a friend of mine gave me this little plaque a few years ago when things were not so great for me. And it said, but first she must love herself.
Yeah.
And that was the truest statement I ever heard. But first she must love herself, because if she doesn't love herself, you're kind of in bad shape.
Wow, that's a really great way to wrap this up. I mean, how can we top that? That's pretty sweet. Put your oxygen mask on first. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so how can people, I am going to post in the comments your information.
Okay.
But you can just go ahead and tell us, how can we get a hold of you if we're interested in learning more?
Well, I've got a WordPress site, which is, I'm never good about this because I usually send it to people. It's leslierogerspeckham.wordpress.com. And my email is leslie_rp@msn.com or livingintentionally3@gmail.com.
Okay.
And so I'd love to connect on my website. There's a scheduling thing to book an appointment with me. And I usually meet with people Wednesdays or Saturdays. And so that works. Texting me. I don't know if I gave my phone number. Can I put my phone number in comments?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So I can put my phone number and my website in comments. But yeah, I would love to just connect. If you can think of anybody that might need my help and be willing to talk to me. I mean, I know you can't really say you need this person. It's kind of awkward, but but anybody that pops into your mind that you just say, I'm here to help. I mean, it is what I do. I'm, a life coach, but I also truly come to this wanting everybody that I meet in general to have a better existence. And I know how hard it is to get there when you're stuck.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Les, for joining us.
Thank you, my dear. I love you.
Yay, love you too. And so I'm going to put this on pretty soon. Look for it on our little Facebook group page, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye. Well, if I can know how to hold that thought. End record. There it is. Bye, everybody.